If you've clicked on this video, it's probably because you're looking to lose the excess weight. Maybe you've already tried in the past and given up, or maybe this is your first time trying to lose weight. Either way, I'm going to give you some tips that helped me lose 17 kilos in 6 months and keep it off for good. So to give you a bit of backstory, I'm 5'10", 178 centimeters, and for my whole life, I've never really been overweight. I'm not genetically skinny. I've always had thick thighs, but I've always been in the normal range for my weight. However, through 2020 and 2021, I gained a lot of weight, and in July 2021, I was the heaviest I'd ever been at 86 kilos. I was very, very unhappy. I wasn't doing any exercise. I was eating a lot and I was making a lot of poor food choices. Between July and December 2021, I lost 19 kilos from the stress of moving countries. I went down to 67 kilos. In the 2 years that followed between 2022 and 2024, the weight unfortunately crept back on because I hadn't learnt the importance of nutrition and eating a healthy, nutritious diet. I also didn't understand the importance of exercise. I wasn't exercising at all during those 2 years that followed, and the weight just slowly crept back on, and in March 2024 I was 80 kilos. I had absolutely no accountability. I would go through packs of biscuits, cakes, chocolate bars. I was having portion sizes that were way too big, and I was having multiple desserts, and I also was doing absolutely no exercise. My step count was probably about 100, and I was feeling very down during this period. I was emotionally eating to try to make myself feel better because food was my comfort. But unfortunately, that was just making the problem worse because the more I ate, the bigger I got and the more depressed I felt, and the vicious cycle continued. I had absolutely no idea what I weighed, but I knew I was overweight because I was hiding myself away in big black oversized hoodies, something I'd already done previously in 2021, so I knew I needed to do something about it. Every time I had to get dressed, I was having a crisis with my clothes. Nothing fitted, my tummy was sticking out through my jeans, and it was March and summer was just around the corner, and I was absolutely dreading summer, something that I've dreaded every single year for quite a long time, and I always leave it too late to do something about it. And then in previous times, once summer had been and gone, any diet I'd started just stopped and I would just go back to eating lots of food. But this time I was absolutely determined that I was not going to spend another summer hiding myself away in big baggy clothes. I didn't want to be unhappy with the way I looked anymore. I wanted to enjoy going shopping and buying myself new clothes and feeling really good in outfits. I wanted to feel confident in my body, and most importantly, I wanted to feel healthy. I just felt so unhealthy because I was eating so much bad food and doing absolutely no exercise. So 6 months later, in September 2024, I had lost 17 kilos and I was down to 63 kilos. And then the challenge came of, would I be able to keep it off and not go back to my old habits and let the weight creep back on, which is what had happened the first time. And here I am 6 months later. I'm 64 kilos, which is fine. I've maintained the weight. Going up a kilo is normal. I'll talk about why that is later, but I've maintained the weight. I'm the healthiest I've ever been. I love working out and I have a really healthy relationship with food for the first time in my life. Now I'm really looking forward to summer, and most importantly, I feel in control around food. It doesn't control me anymore, and I've managed to break the cycle of emotional eating. Emotional eating was definitely the culprit of my weight gain. I gave food a role that was way too centralized in my life. I literally lived to eat. I loved food. When I was down, food was my comfort. When I was happy, food was my reward. All I thought about was food. When I was next eating, I got really excited about my next meal. And after years of doing failed diets, counting macros, eating tuna salads at school, etc., I also blamed my genetics. I thought I had really bad genetics and it didn't matter what I did, I couldn't lose the weight. And I was feeling especially down because I'd already lost the weight once and put it back on, and I just thought, well, there's no point losing it again, because even if I do manage to lose any weight, which was really difficult for me to do, I was just going to pile it all back on. And weight blindness is actually very real, because I didn't realize how overweight I was until I looked back at old photos and videos. I couldn't believe the difference in my face, in my stomach, in my arms even. I'll also put some measurements on the screen of my waist, thighs, glutes, etc., so you can see a difference in terms of numbers there, because it wasn't just the number on the scale that changed, my measurements also went down as well. Before you start, it's really important to take before videos and photos. I didn't want to look at them, so I didn't look at them. You don't have to look at them. So I just took them and I never looked at them again. And I thought one day I'll look back and I will see a real difference. Make sure you take those photos and videos at the beginning, because you won't realize how much you've changed until you look back at them 6 months or a year later. Next, you need a way of measuring your progress. I would recommend taking some waist, arm, glute, thigh measurements and noting those down along with your starting weight. I chose not to count calories as food was very difficult for me. As soon as I felt restricted, it made me want to eat even more food. So I didn't count calories. However, I did weigh myself every single day. Now, you might think that's really excessive and unhealthy, but if you only weigh yourself once a week, your weight naturally fluctuates every single day. If you go to the toilet, depending on the time of the month, depending on what you've eaten the day before, if you've eaten slightly higher carb and you're retaining water, if you've had a really hard workout and your muscles are sore and inflamed, that also pushes the weight up on the scale. So if you only weigh yourself once a week and you catch yourself on one of those days where your weight's gone up, it's going to falsify the results and make you think you're not losing weight, when actually if you take an average across the week, your weight still might be going down. It's just a way of getting an accurate picture of what's going on so that you're not discouraged by not losing weight when actually you are. If you are going to weigh yourself every day, you have to detach emotion from the scale. It's just a number. It doesn't dictate your happiness. It doesn't dictate if you have a good day or not. It's simply a way of measuring something, just like the number in your bank account. You really do have to detach the emotion from it. And weighing yourself every day is just a temporary thing. Once you've lost the weight, you don't need to weigh yourself every day anymore. I now only weigh myself maybe every 3 weeks to every month, but I cut it down. So once I'd finished losing the weight, I weighed myself once a week just to check that I was maintaining, and then I cut it down to every 2 weeks, and now I only weigh myself perhaps once a month just to check that I'm not putting the weight back on. And that's really important for me because that is exactly how I put the weight back on before. I just let it creep on a kilo here and there, and before you know it, 2 years have gone by and I'd put on 13 kilos. If you absolutely don't want to weigh yourself and that's something that's really triggering for you, just going off progress photos and how your clothes fit is a very valid way of measuring your progress as well. Otherwise, you don't know what's changing, and you need to be able to know if it's not working, you can adjust what you're doing so you're not wasting your time and letting weeks go by and you're not losing any weight, because that has happened to me before, where I was just trying to do some exercise, eat a bit less, but I wasn't actually eating less, and I wasn't doing enough exercise. I didn't know how many steps I was doing per day. I wasn't measuring any progress with any measurements, any scale weight numbers, or by how my clothes fitted, and I actually wasted a lot of years just spinning my wheels going absolutely nowhere. So make sure you have a way of measuring your progress, and keep some of your old clothes so that at the end of the journey you can try on your old pair of jeans and see just how much progress you've made. So my best advice is to start small. I started with exercise because I found anything to do with changing my nutrition really overwhelming, and that just put me off even wanting to start. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to keep my nutrition the same for the first 2 weeks, and I'm just going to focus on moving more. So this could be just going to the gym and walking on a treadmill and watching your favorite shows. If you don't have time to go to the gym, you could get yourself a walking pad and walk in front of your TV. You want to make it fun and not feel like grueling hard work to start with, otherwise that's just going to put you off completely. So walking on a treadmill for an hour a day, 5 days a week. I didn't change anything about my diet, and within the first 2 weeks I had lost my first couple of kilos. Now, it's very important that you find exercise that you enjoy. Fortunately, I enjoy weightlifting, so I was able to add that in as well, because you don't want to do only cardio, otherwise you're going to end up skinny fat because you're going to lose muscle along with the fat. And you want to focus on fat loss and keeping as much muscle mass as you can. Now, I understand not everyone likes weightlifting, and you shouldn't force yourself to do something you don't like. So maybe it's Pilates, maybe it's going to a dance class. You really want to find exercise that you enjoy, because you're much more likely to stick to it that way. To make the process easier, you also want to remove any barriers that are stopping you from doing exercise. For me, it was I couldn't face going out of my apartment and getting to the gym by myself. I was just too lazy. I would always make an excuse as to why I couldn't be bothered to go. So to remove that barrier, my boyfriend dropped me off at the gym on the way to work. The gym was on the way to his work, so he drove me there, so I had no excuse of I can't be bothered to walk there, even though it wasn't even far away. I would literally make the most pathetic excuses as to why I couldn't be bothered to go. So he drove me there, and it was just the push I needed, because once I'm in the gym, I absolutely love it and I really enjoy my workout. But for me, it was getting there that was the problem. Maybe you pack your work clothes in a bag and you take them with you to work, and you change after work and go straight to the gym from your job to to avoid this thing of going home and then you can't be bothered to go back out. Or if you're going early in the morning, maybe you lay your workout clothes out the night before to give yourself a visual cue of putting them on in the morning and getting in the habit of going. And don't get me wrong, in the beginning it's going to be really difficult to motivate yourself. There were so many times I didn't want to go, but I would always put my workout clothes on and have my boyfriend drop me off. And then I said to myself, if I get inside and I don't want to do my workout, I can simply walk on a treadmill and watch YouTube videos just the same as what I would be doing at home on my sofa, and then I can go home. But 9 times out of 10, once I was in there and I started the first exercise and I got into it with some good music, I really enjoyed myself and I carried on working out and then did my cardio afterwards and left feeling really, really good and really, really positive. So I did 3 weightlifting sessions a week, 2 leg days, 1 upper body day, and then 5 days a week I walked on a treadmill for an hour. Just on the flat, I didn't add any incline because that wasn't enjoyable for me. Walking is honestly all you need to lose fat. You don't need to be sweating so much that you're absolutely dying and it's a horrible, grueling process. It can actually be really enjoyable. I just walk between a 6 and 6.5 kilometers per hour for an hour. So I walk about 5.5 to 6 kilometers in an hour. After a few months, I did hit a plateau and I had to up that to an hour and a half of walking per day. But bear in mind, that was actually my step count. So I went from walking 10,000 steps a day, that's about an hour on a treadmill, to 13,000 steps a day, an hour and a half. And that was the only cardio I did. And you of course can walk outside if the weather's nice and you have nice places to walk where you live. Or if you prefer to watch shows, you can just do it on a treadmill at the gym or on your walking pad. I didn't do hardly any Stairmaster. I can probably count on one hand the amount of times I've been on a Stairmaster. I actually like the Stairmaster, but I just found that walking was so much easier and less taxing on my body, particularly after a leg day. I know the Stairmaster is really trendy on TikTok, and if you prefer the Stairmaster to walking, do that. If you prefer going on an elliptical, do that. There is no one cardio machine that's going to help you burn calories and fat quicker than another. They are all the same. It's about the time you spend on the machine and the frequency per week, how many sessions you do per week. You can also sneak in extra steps by taking the stairs rather than the lift, getting off the bus a few stops before that you would usually get off, and walking back to your house. And if exercise is the overwhelming part for you and that's really what's putting you off, you can easily just get started by aiming for a step count of 10k steps per day, and then you can build it up from there. So as I said, I didn't change anything about my diet for the first 2 weeks, but then I slowly started making small gradual changes that felt easy and not too drastic. So with every meal I aimed to eat a lot of vegetables and meat, and I kept carbs to a minimum because I find that pasta and bread makes me bloat a lot. It's really important to identify foods that are inflaming you and making you bloated and try to avoid those. That's going to be different for everyone. I'm someone that's on the insulin resistant side. I find that carbs really bloat me and stop me from losing weight. I tried to reduce the amount of simple carbs I was eating, things like bread and pasta, but I still ate potatoes, rice, and complex carbs that are better for you. Packets of biscuits, I did just go cold turkey. I stopped buying them completely because I wasn't just able to have one. I would be having the whole packet and there was no way that I was able to control myself around things like that, especially when they are small and in packets and it's easy to consume 5 in 2 minutes. That just had to go completely. So I did cut out that. It's okay to cut out some things. So for example, if you are craving fizzy drinks or you're constantly ordering food, just delete the app off your phone. Some things you do have to just cut out, but don't cut out everything because you're just going to make it really miserable for yourself and you won't be able to stick to the diet. For example, I remember back in high school, I tried to do a no chocolate rule and I lasted 10 days before I gave up because I just love chocolate so much. And so throughout my weight loss journey, I still had chocolate every single night. I just made sure to put a few squares in a bowl and I didn't take the packet to the sofa. Taking the packet to the sofa, especially in the evenings when you're watching TV, is one of the worst things you can do because you're just mindlessly eating and you don't realize how many you've had. So it's much better to put a few in a bowl so that you can enjoy the chocolate in moderation. Another thing that really helped me was having a protein source on hand in the fridge. So things like boiled eggs or a smoothie with yogurt or even just a piece of turkey, something that you can snack on that is easily accessible in the fridge that's going to stop you from just reaching into the crisp cupboard and snacking on crisps or chocolate in the middle of the day because it's the easiest thing to grab. And if you are really craving chocolate in the afternoon, something that really helped me was having low calorie hot chocolate powder. I have the Options hot chocolate powder that's only like 40 calories or something, and I would have a hot chocolate and that would be so much better for me. You've got protein and calcium in the milk and you're satisfying your chocolate craving without eating chocolate bars bars in the middle of the afternoon. In the evening, when I was having my chocolate, something I made sure to do was to buy some rich chocolate, things like dark chocolate or caramel chocolate, something that was very rich. So once I'd had a few pieces and I didn't want to have any more, things like milk chocolate you can actually consume a lot of before you don't want any more, and that can actually be a very slippery slope because after you've had a few squares you feel like you want more. So that would be another trick, having something like a rich dark chocolate mousse, so that once you've had it you feel like, okay, I've had my nice chocolate but it was very rich and I don't feel like having any more. I really found that exercising really improved my mental health. It really is the best medicine, and that along with doing the inner work and really finding out why I was feeling down and uncoupling food from emotion really helped me in the long run not use food as comfort anymore. And by prioritizing whole nutritious foods and nourishing my body with food that not only tasted good but also made me feel good, I naturally had less cravings and I felt like eating less junk food. Something that stopped me from overeating was actually thinking to myself, am I hungry or am I actually just bored or am I thirsty? I definitely overate so many times just out of pure boredom because I had nothing to do. I was unemployed at the time and I just would sit on my sofa and eat. So having a big water bottle on hand so that you can keep drinking, because sometimes you're actually just thirsty, you're not actually hungry. And also making sure I was getting out and doing hobbies, seeing friends. Luckily for me, the gym is one of my hobbies, so that really just changed everything for me. If you can just get yourself into 1 or 2 hobbies, make sure you have a social life, or even just get yourself into some projects. That's going to really occupy your mind and reduce the food noise, so you're not just thinking about food 24/7. And it's going to actually help you feel in more control around food because actually it's not ruling your life, it's just there as fuel. A lot of people give up their healthy eating and abandon the weight loss process, and this has happened to me countless times because they are doing a diet, and this is not the way to approach it. This is not a diet, this is a lifestyle change. It's about changing the way you eat and improving your nutrition. It's not a diet that you're just doing for a short amount of time. I always used to think weight loss was just eating chicken, broccoli and rice every single day, and it was really boring, and that's why I really resisted to changing my diet in the first place, because I didn't want to eat just horrible boring foods. But it really doesn't have to be like that. You can actually get creative. Buying an air fryer was one of the best things I ever did. You can do so many recipes in your air fryer, things like roasted courgettes, peppers, carrots. You can even cut up potatoes and have air fried chips. Volume eating really helped me feel satiated and stopped me feeling so hungry and overeating. So eating lots of vegetables and fruit because they don't have many calories. And if you can't be bothered to cook the vegetables, if I was ever having a pizza on the weekend, for example, I would just cut up some veg quickly in a bowl. It takes 2 minutes, some tomatoes, some cucumber, some pepper, some avocado, whatever fruit and veg that doesn't need to be cooked that you can easily cut up in 5 minutes. And it just means that you can enjoy 1 or 2 slices of pizza and have the veg and you feel full and you don't feel like you need to eat the whole pizza. I also find meal prepping really nice food in advance actually helps you stick to the healthy eating in the long run. So maybe you make a curry and you make 2 nights worth, so that the next night you don't have to worry about cooking. It's already in the fridge and you can just heat it up. And make sure you have nice food on the weekend. So every weekend, even now, I still have fajitas, I have homemade chips, homemade burgers. I just find that if you make it yourself in the air fryer, it's so much healthier, but it still allows you to enjoy nice food on the weekend without having such a calorific takeaway, for example. Same with cakes and puddings. I still ate cakes and puddings through my whole weight loss journey. I just made sure to make them myself so that they were lower calorie and had much better ingredients and were more nutritious and healthier for you. Even things like pizza, as I said, I still ate pizza through my weight loss journey. I just made sure to make the dough myself so that it was just a lot lower calorie, and then I could add toppings like chicken and ham to make it higher protein. Protein is so important because it's what keeps you fuller for longer. And so in the beginning, aim for 100 grams of protein. You can always build it up from there. Even if you're not tracking your food, just track how much protein you're getting, because a lot of people are hardly eating any protein at all. Not only is it really bad for your body because you're not enabling your body to build any muscle, but it's also the reason that you're overeating and snacking on the wrong foods, because you're not feeling full, because you're not eating foods that make you feel satiated. However, I would avoid things like protein bars, protein powders. They are just full of so many nasty, horrible ingredients. And to be honest, if you're eating a healthy, balanced diet, you can get plenty of protein from meat, fish, eggs without the use of all these supplements that contain so many bad ingredients. And I actually found that protein powder was making me bloat really badly. These products are often really bad for your gut, so I just would not recommend recommend them. There's absolutely no need to be taking them. If your plate is colourful, full of lots of different coloured vegetables, then that is a good indicator that you are having a healthy, nutritious diet that's got lots of vitamins and minerals. It's not only going to make you feel good, but it's also going to help you be a lot healthier on the inside. Now, a little hack: if you have a busy social life and you're constantly going out and seeing friends, and unfortunately social events often do revolve around food, and that's absolutely fine, but if you're going out multiple times a week, a hack I found is ordering a small skinny hot chocolate rather than having a cake. Of course, if I was only going out to a cafe and that was the only time that week I was going, of course I would get myself a cake. But if I had a lot of things on and I was seeing different friends in the same week, then maybe one day I would get the cake and the next day I would order myself a hot chocolate. So I still felt like I was having something chocolatey, but I wasn't having so many cakes in the same week. But if you're depriving yourself and the one time you're going to a restaurant with your friend, maybe you're celebrating a family's birthday, if you're not choosing what you want off the menu at a restaurant, or you're not having the birthday cake, or you're not eating the food at the barbecue, you're doing it all wrong. I never once deprived myself. When I was on holiday, I ate an ice cream probably every day. Any birthday parties, I always had a slice of birthday cake, but I just made sure to keep it reasonable. Before, I would end up having like 3 or 4 slices of birthday cake, but I just had the one slice of birthday cake. I felt like I was enjoying myself, but in moderation. I just wasn't going over the top and eating too much. And as I said, if you're going on holiday for a week, just enjoy and eat whatever you want, because one week is not going to undo months of progress. And I also find, if you know that when you get back from your holiday, you're not going to be restricting yourself and you're not going to be punishing yourself, you're actually less likely to overeat on your holiday, because you don't have this thing of, oh, I need to enjoy all the food now because when I get back from my holiday, I'm going back to my really restrictive diet. I find that if you just eat normally and enjoy yourself and allow yourself to have a treat in moderation, you actually find that you are putting less focus on food. I find it actually governs your life less and you feel more in control and can actually enjoy yourself in social settings. It really just is about being reasonable and enjoying things in moderation, but learning that habit is going to take time, and patience is going to be absolutely key to your weight loss journey. This is not an overnight success. And be really careful, because you see people on social media saying, oh, I've lost 10 kilos in 3 weeks. It's rubbish. Half of it will be water weight anyway, because you can't physically lose that amount of fat in such a short space of time. This is a lifestyle change, and small gradual changes that add up over time are going to be so much more sustainable, and you're going to be able to maintain your weight loss in the future. If you take the weight loss at a slower rate and make just small, easy, gradual changes that feel doable to you. So I would never recommend losing more than 1 kilo of fat per week. If you're very overweight in the beginning, you might lose more, but as time goes on, the rate of weight loss is going to slow down. So for example, for me, I lost 10 kilos in the first 10 and a half, 11 weeks, but then it took 14 weeks to lose the remaining 7 kilos because the rate of weight loss slowed down, and that is fine. That is very, very normal. But you don't want to rush the process, because although you might lose the weight and get to your goal weight quicker, you're just going to rebound and put all the weight back on because you haven't lost it in a slow, sustainable way. It's also important to be armed with the facts. You cannot lose weight if you're not in a calorie deficit. Bottom line, it is about calories in versus calories out, and that has been proven by multiple studies. They've done studies where they've just eaten McDonald's and lost weight just eating McDonald's, but you're going to find that eating whole nutritious foods, you can eat a lot more of them than things like chocolate, burgers, chips that have a lot more calories in them. It's very easy to eat too many of them because they are so calorie dense, and then you're not in a calorie deficit anymore. However, it's really important that you don't undereat either. Food is fuel for your body, and you need food to fuel your workouts. And if you're in too much of an aggressive calorie deficit, your body is going to hold on to the excess weight because it doesn't know where its next meal is coming from. You're also not going to be able to adhere to good nutrition habits long term because you've just been restricting yourself too severely too quickly. Cardio is very, very important. If you just do weightlifting or just do Pilates and you don't get your steps in and you don't do your cardio, you are not going to be losing the weight. I know there's some people that claim that they have. Weightlifting and Pilates are there to strengthen your muscles, and they don't really help put you in a calorie deficit. So that is what cardio is there to do. It's there to burn calories and make sure you're in a calorie deficit. Most of your calorie deficit should be coming from the food, and cardio is just there as a tool to help make up a bit of the deficit. So you can still be in a calorie deficit and eat enough food. And it really took me years to learn that you cannot overeat and then try and compensate by doing loads of cardio. Hours and hours of cardio I would do just to burn off the packets of cakes and biscuits that I'd been eating. You cannot out-train a bad diet. That is something I had to learn the hard way. But if you find a way to enjoy your cardio, getting outside and doing a dog walk or watching your shows on the treadmill, it actually becomes really enjoyable and part of your everyday life. And then you can use it as a tool so that you can actually eat a bit more food and feel full and still lose the weight. Now, another myth I want to dispel is these ab blaster workouts. We see so many things on social media. Do this 5-minute ab routine per day and you will get abs. And I'm sure back in the 2000s, we all did those crunches and sit-ups in our room thinking that was the way we were going to get abs, but turns out it isn't. You cannot spot reduce fat. You lose fat from all over your body. You can't control where you lose the fat first. I genetically store a lot of fat in my stomach, so that is something that I still struggle with to this day, and everyone's going to be different. Other people hold weight in their thighs. That is something genetic that you cannot control. You just have to stick to the weight loss journey long enough to see the fat come off. For example, a lot of people want abs, but you have to have a body fat percentage that's low enough to be able to see them. And actually for a lot of women, particularly people like me who store a lot of fat around their middle, a bit insulin resistant, maybe have PCOS, it's actually going to be very difficult for you to see your abs. And for some women, it's not actually healthy to have abs, and you shouldn't really push it that far. The most important is getting your weight under control and making sure you're eating healthy, nutritious food and doing exercise that you enjoy, that makes you feel good. It's also helping improve your body composition. My weight loss journey was 6 months long. Now, a calorie deficit is something you can't do forever. You can't just keep doing it for years and years and keep losing more and more weight. That's not how it works. It's generally recommended that you shouldn't do a calorie deficit for more than 6 months at a time. And even during those 6 months, there were times when I went on holiday and I ate a bit more food and I gave myself a diet break without going crazy. It's very important that you give yourself those diet breaks and that you eat a bit higher calorie, perhaps your maintenance calories for a week, just after a couple of months, because if you keep going with the deficit and you never give yourself a break, your metabolism slows down and ultimately you are going to stop losing weight. After you've lost the weight, you can go back to eating at maintenance to maintain your weight loss. You just have to be careful that you don't start going back to your old habits and stop exercising and start overeating again and then the weight creeps back on. Hopefully over the 6-month period, you've really installed some good healthy habits and you're on this positive upward spiral of eating good food makes you feel good, and going to the gym and exercising makes you look good and feel good on the inside, and therefore you're less likely to emotionally overeat. I mentioned at the very beginning that I'm now 64 kilos and I've gone up a kilo, and that is very normal because when you start eating more food, your body is recalibrating, it's adjusting to having slightly more food, and it will be normal to see a little jump on the scale of 1 to 2 kilos maximum. Any more than that, then you're probably eating too many calories over your maintenance and you risk creeping on the weight over time. But this is something that you just got to figure out as you go. As I say, I don't count calories or macros, so I just eat intuitively and make sure to weigh myself every couple of weeks to make sure I'm not putting the weight back on. And what's very interesting is you can eat a lot more food at maintenance when you are slimmer than you might think. I worked out my maintenance calories when I was 80 kilos and not doing any exercise at all was around 2,000 calories. I worked out my maintenance calories at 64 kilos doing 1 to 2 gym sessions per week was also around 2,000 calories. That just goes to show that you can still eat a good amount of food after your weight loss journey. You shouldn't be eating as little as possible, and that you can actually eat 2,000 calories and you're not going to gain the weight back. I've also noticed that my metabolism has drastically sped up since I've lost weight. In particular, doing weight training, I've gained a bit of muscle. And for example, at the beginning of my weight loss journey, I ate fajitas and I gained 2 kilos overnight, and it took me a whole week to lose those 2 kilos. Now I can eat fajitas and within a day my body's metabolized it. I might have gained a kilo of water and because I've had some heavy carbs. The next day I'm back down to 64 kilos as if nothing had happened. And I honestly, when I first saw that for the first time, I couldn't believe it. I've always blamed my weight gain and being overweight on my poor metabolism. Weightlifting is so beneficial to get your metabolism working. So if you're overweight and you've wondered why slimmer people seem to be eating the same amount as you but never putting on the weight, that would be why. Your metabolism actually becomes becomes a lot more efficient when you get rid of the excess weight. To finish this video, I wanted to mention that although my weight loss journey has changed my life dramatically, it's made me a lot happier. I look better, I feel better. I'm now excited for summer. I love buying clothes, and I'm just overall in a much happier place. I feel in control of food. I'm not emotionally eating anymore. I'm not restricting. I'm nourishing my body with healthy foods. But you'll realize that once you've lost the weight, although some of your problems have gone, it's not going to solve all your problems. You still have to do the mental work to love yourself. Everyone has flaws. Nobody is perfect. A lot of your insecurities will disappear when you lose the weight, but not all of them. And that is normal. You have to be able to love yourself and just accept your flaws and just enjoy yourself with your friends and family and not constantly worry about your body. When we're 90 and we're on our deathbed, we're not going to be looking back and worrying about what we looked like or if our stomach was a little bit wobbly. It's going to be about the memories we made with the people we love. So just bear that in mind, that your weight loss journey will change your life and it will make you feel confident and it will help you feel a lot happier, but it doesn't mean that you don't need to do the inner work to love yourself regardless. Even though I've lost 16, 17 kilos, I still have cellulite on the back of my thighs, and it's just an insecurity that I've had to accept. It doesn't stop me from wearing shorts or dresses. I just go out and have fun, and I've just accepted that it's a normal part of being a woman. And the last thing to say is make sure you look back at certain stages of your weight loss journey and be proud of the progress you've made. Even if you've only lost a couple of kilos, that is a very, very good start and something you should be really proud of, and use it as motivation to keep going. This process is going to be hard. There will be times where you might be a bit hungry because you're just so used to overeating, but equally if you eat the right foods and you make sure you make yourself some really nice healthy alternatives to your favorite meals, you shouldn't be ravenous either. And you can use the progress that you see in photos, how your clothes fit, any measurements and scale weight to really spell you on and finish your weight loss transformation. And the best thing about losing weight, even if you've been trying for years and it's never worked, you're in control and you can start at any time. And I'm living proof that just because it hasn't worked in the past or you've lost the weight and put it all back on doesn't mean you can't lose it again and keep it off. I've now kept it off for 6 months and counting, and you can definitely do that too. It all starts with a positive mindset and thinking that you can do this and that you will succeed in losing the weight that you've always wanted to lose. And ultimately you're investing time and energy in yourself, which is the best thing you can do. And you are going to thank yourself in 6 months because the time is going to pass anyway. You might as well make it count and make a change. And even in 3 months, you can lose 8-9 kilos, and that's actually going to be a significant change. People started noticing I'd lost weight when I'd lost about 10 kilos. If you're thinking to yourself, there's only 3 months left now till summer, there's no point, I've left it too late. Don't underestimate the amount of progress you can make in just 3 months or even just a couple of weeks. I lost my first couple of kilos, as I said, in the first 2 weeks. You just have to get over the hurdle of starting, make it easy and enjoyable. Don't restrict yourself too much and have fun. Get creative with the meals you make and make sure you find exercise you enjoy and just enjoy the process, and you will achieve your weight loss goal. Thank you for watching this video. Hopefully there's been some useful tips you can take away and apply to your own weight loss journey. Let me know in the comments how you're getting on with your fitness journey and any other videos you would like to see.